Welcome back to another episode of DFS and Dynasty. I got my boy Austin here with me. Austin, how we feeling this Sunday morning?
Not too bad, not too bad. I already got a game going right now. It's a little back and forth, but hey, I trust that Wentz will pull through and crush freaking, crush Jacksonville. So let's go.
Man, I love it. From basically when this game started off, which I live in Cali, but it doesn't matter where. It's 14 hours straight of football today on Sunday. This is just such a great. More football is better football, I believe. And man, I'm just really excited. So what we are going to do here, if this is your first time joining us, we are here for you. Listener questions, any of that kind of stuff, you just let me know and we will help you out. So if you're joining us live, just enter in your questions there and Austin will relay those to me. We are here for you. Now, we specialize in DFS, daily fantasy sports. FanDuel is definitely our favorite. So whenever you hear us mention prices, we are referencing FanDuel. We play DraftKings as well, but FanDuel is kind of where we make most of our money. We're going to be going over weather, news and notes, top games to exploit and stay away from, and also just some kind of emergency and philosophy ideas on how to make more money. And if you would like to join us, head over to eatsleepfantasy.com. We sell items for $5 a week. Yep, just $5. And man, we have done very, very well this season. We only had one rough week. That was 2 weeks ago, but man, things have been going much, much better. So without further ado, Austin, let's jump into weather. Last week, we had some very windy games. How's it looking this week?
A lot better than what it did last week. But hey, even with all that wind, a lot of the players performed a lot better than expected, except for your boy Curse.
First off, I apologize. Austin was not on the show earlier this week, and we made a bet last Sunday. And the title was To Curse or Not to Curse. He was only $5,000. We thought he was incredible value. I was wrong. He put up an egg. So Austin, this hurts me to say. I didn't care that he hurt my lineups. This hurts way more. You were right.
Thank you. And I told you not to fade Latavius Murray on the way out the door, and he produced big time. I was more proud of that one than I was the Curse. So
well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that you didn't hold the bitterness against my team. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're good. I just crushed you this week in our matchup. So, but the weather today, the only one I really saw. I mean, right now, I'm up here in Michigan and it is raining and it is a cold fucking rain. Like it's annoying. Like when I was in the military, there was only one time you would ever see me turn like straight bitch, and it's cold and wet. And today, the Jets at Chicago, it's going to be cold and wet. Going to have 15-mile-an-hour winds, gusts up to 25. But we saw worse weather last week. So, I mean, it's not really a big game except for defense, but it's definitely something to watch out for.
I like it. And the thing is this, wind is kind of the big thing you got to pay attention to. Rain and snow, yeah, it looks rough. Wind affects the passing game. And again, it affects outside in. So the outside wide receivers, it hurts the most. Next to the quarterback, then slot, tight end, so on and so forth. But the running back, it kind of benefits just because they should see more volume, but it's not always the case, but it's what it is. So let's jump into news and notes. Lots of new stuff going on. And man, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Jacksonville just for the entertainment value. Good Lord. They are playing now. The Jacksonville starting secondary, minus Jalen Ramsey, apparently, went out partying in London and racked up $50,000 bill, and that was in pounds, so that's not even dollars.
That's more than that.
Golly, man. I hope they had a good time. They got in a fight because they wanted to skip the bill. They thought it was comp. They all get arrested, and oh man, I can't wait for the details of this one to come out. It is awesome. But Deshaun Jackson for Tampa Bay requests to be traded. He wants out of Tampa Bay. Man, what does this do for you? I know what I'm going to do with this information, but what does it do for you?
For me right now, I'm a little concerned. Like, that game is a pretty good one. It'll be down in our games that we like for this week, and it has one of the highest point totals. But man, it's either one of those where the coach like, "Oh, I screw you. You get every single ball and you better make yourself before you break yourself" type situation. Or I'm like, "Man, I don't know if I want to touch this kid." I mean, honestly, there's a lot of wide receivers. His price right now, we're looking at 6,400. There's a lot of other wide receivers you could look at around that price this week on FanDuel. So
I would look to his teammate, Chris Godwin. I love Chris Godwin. He's $100 cheaper and I think far more predictable. Just because, again, with Deshaun Jackson and guys like Ted Ginn, they are just swing for the fences type guys. They could leave a goose egg up anytime. We're used to Deshaun Jackson being in the news for talking. I doubt anything happens here. I can't imagine what the market is for somebody with such a huge contract that's that old, that is difficult to deal with in the locker room. So I'm going to stay away here. Marlon Mack, man, he was
money.
Perhaps the play of the week.
He was the play of the week.
And he was on the $1 million lineup. He was basically, if you played him last week, you dominated. He is 6,700 this week, but he's questionable. What do you think, Austin? Is he going to play?
I think he'll play, but I think he'll be limited. I'm concerned. He's definitely not a kid I'm looking at. I mean, he's got such a great matchup though against the Raiders, and it kills me that he was questionable even this week. So, but at a price tag of 6,700, I'm actually got a stack down here where I'm going to use him for a cult stack. Not a cult, but the Colts. I'm going to stack all their players.
Heard it here first.
Yep, I'm definitely going to use him for that, but I'm not using him in cash. I mean, if he wasn't injured at all, and you know me about injuries, he definitely would have been probably definitely a great play this week. So,
yeah, I've got him in a few lineups. I again, my favorite thing about FanDuel is they seem to react much slower than DraftKings on the week's previous performance. FanDuel kind of seems to pride themselves on getting their prices up first right off the bat. And so they are affected less by the previous week's performance. And I love kind of volleying off that and finding value. Staying with injured running backs, Matt Breida for the 49ers, 5,900. He is going to play, or at least should play, but the volume is not going to be there. They're going to keep him on a strict snap count. Tell me what you are doing with this 49ers backfield, Austin.
I probably won't even touch it, tell you the truth. I mean, it is another great matchup. I mean, they're playing against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals defense actually playing decent against the run. And then Breida did he even put up a point last week? I think he was still in the negative for most of the game, but he went out pretty early as well, though. So he's just another one, like, if you're going to use him, a contrarian, it's one of those for a tournament or GPP, but he's definitely not cash viable this week.
Yeah, and I hate to say this because, Kyle Shanahan's offense for the 49ers is one of the most running back friendly. They are always, every single year, are up near the top for yards per attempt and rushing. I think they're third through fifth rushing right now. But I'm staying away from this backfield mainly because he has shown us that he is pretty game script dependent, and he has running backs he likes. If you remember 2 weeks ago, whenever this Breida injury started, everybody was saying, play Alfred Morris, play Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris got one carry, and it was called back on a penalty. He went Matt Breida out of nowhere. He went with Raheem Mostert out of nowhere. So we've got to – if I'm playing anybody, it's going to be Mostert, but this is – it's just not worth it. What if Breida comes out and he's healthy and he gets all the carries or the majority? What if he wants to focus Alf this week? I'm just staying away from this backfield, which hurts. Now, one person that I will tell you I'm not staying away from, that is Dante Pettis. In my tournament lineups, I love Dante Pettis. Pierre Garçon is out, and Pettis, who has been out for the past 3 weeks with a knee injury, he is off of the injury report, and he will be starting outside wide receiver. And even on top of that, Patrick Peterson's amazing. He's going to be on Goodwin. So I really do love me some Dante Pettis this week. 4,700, basically free, and all he's going to have to do to return value is basically have 3 catches for 30 yards, and he'll be just fine, which he is a home run play waiting to happen. Dante Pettis is going to be in a lot of my tournament lineups just because, man, that the ceiling is immense for a player that is so cheap. So any other thoughts on that San Francisco game, Austin?
I like Kittle this week. I mean, for tight end, I mean, he is a little pricey. He's at 7K, but I will go out on a limb and say he will be one of the top 3 tight ends for this week. So
I love it, man. He is definitely PFF's #1 overall tight end so far this season. That guy is special. Very fun to watch too. Very fun to watch. Did you see that he cares about your fantasy team? Did you see that?
no, I don't think I. Where would you see stuff like that?
So he during the game he started talking trash to the opposing team last week, and he kind of stumbled through the end zone and fought through a couple tackles, and they said, man, almost got you. And he goes, well, if I didn't get in, my fantasy owners would have been pissed off, so I had to
Oh,
make sure
nice.
they were happy. So you got to respect that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, kid. Now moving on, Allen Robinson is probably not going to play. I think he is going to be out. Who does this help for the Bears?
Oh, definitely. I'm looking at. Just trying to pull up the player pool for that group.
I love Taylor Gabriel this week,
I
man.
like Gabriel this week, but does he? Do they move him? I mean, is this an Anthony Miller? I mean, set up for Anthony Miller this week?
Yeah, my guess is the 3 starting wide receivers, again, with, Allen Robinson going out, they're going to be putting another outside guy. And so in my guess in 3 wide receiver sets is going to be Kevin White, Anthony Miller, and Taylor Gabriel with
Right.
some Bellamy mixed in there. But I think that Anthony Miller's for real. They love him, and he has practiced outside in the slot, all that stuff. He's going to be the starting wide receiver. Anthony Miller is the man. So I love all those plays. You got to get them in there somehow.
Yeah, Trey Burton. Are you touching Howard or Cohen? Are you even looking at this?
I'm in on Cohen. You
Cohen?
look at his
Okay.
3-game consistency. He is up near the top as far as targets in the entire NFL over this 3-game stretch. Not just running backs, but the entire wide receiver core as well. The volume is there, and this offense is clicking, and I think it will continue this week. I don't see why not. The Jets' defense is decent, but man, you look at what Trubisky and this offense with Nagy has been doing. I can't get enough. I am not playing. I'm not playing Jordan in anything.
You're not playing Curse this week?
No, I'm not playing Curse.
You're not. What about Crowell?
I have him in one lineup.
What about Crowell?
Crowell absolutely loves 6,000. Are you kidding me with that volume? Yeah. There is nobody. There is nobody to compete with carries. I think that the volume is going to be there. Could lead the NFL in touches this week, Crowell. And you add on to that, he's a home run threat on any play.
Against Mac, though? I mean, that's my concern. Mac.
Yeah, but he's not healthy, and there's a chance he won't even play.
Oh, yeah. If he doesn't play, Crowell is the running back to play this week.
I just, the volume, that's the thing. So one of the fantasy indicators that I always go with is volume versus price. I want touches. And so if that's, whether that's targets or rushes or whatever, that's what I want. And with Crowell, I don't think that there is anybody on the running back slate this week that for that price is going to get that amount of work. And so I love that personally.
Not Richard? Well, we'll talk about Richard in a little bit, but Richard?
I do like Richard, but again, what do you do with this freaking moron head coach, Gruden? Like, there's a chance Doug Martin could have 30 carries this week. I don't think it's going to happen. I do like Richard. I have him in several lineups. But again, the value is there. The volume is there. I love Richard. But again, I think Crowell gets the nod for me.
Okay.
All right, let's keep going. Let's go to the Redskins. Chris Thompson, he is expected to play. What do we do with all this, man? What's going on over there? Still is Bibbs value after what he did last week? Are you willing to play Thompson?
I would play him just in tournament, but I'd keep I would keep close eye on the news though, because he could be out or he could be under a limited snap count. I mean, if I see anything like that, I'm fading Thompson this week. But against the Giants, and they gave away 2 players this week, I mean, it's hard not to sit there and want to grab some of this backfield. I definitely want exposure to it. I'm not sure where, but it's definitely going to be in a tournament. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Peterson is definitely the safe play here, especially, I don't know. I understand why they got rid of Snacks and, basically getting value and punting on this season. But, man, I don't know. It's just kind of It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Now, let me say this. The Browns are going to Browns. They're a terrible front office. Absolutely, probably the worst head coach in all of football in Hugh Jackson. And the rumors are already coming out that Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator from Pittsburgh, is on the hot seat already. And if he doesn't get things turned around, he may be fired mid-season. Just thing I've ever heard. If you watch this team and you think that the offense is the problem, you have a major issue. They're fifth in the NFL in rushing. They have 9 rushing touchdowns, which is fourth best. Now, overall yards, they're in the 20s, but still, like, you are the Cleveland Browns with a rookie quarterback. Why would you mess with this after just 7 games? I don't know. What does this do for you this week? Do you think that this is a bump up for Browns fans, or is this hurt them because of just more issues?
It's definitely one of the games we'll talk about here in a couple minutes, but I mean, you're looking either Baker or Ben, but Ben's at home. I think he's better value. I mean, Chubb, he's 6,400. He's, in my opinion, that's a pretty good price. What do you think about the Steelers defense when it comes against the run or the pass? Which do you prefer?
I'll say this. I do not believe in the Steelers defense at all. I love everything against them. And usually what I do, so for this week, a play that I really, really like, Duke Johnson, super cheap. And I think that the volume could return a little bit more there. I like Chubb, and I will have Chubb in several lineups. But the value that is on Duke Johnson right now just seems like too much to stay away from. So I will be playing Duke in a few lineups, 5,300 against Pittsburgh. And again, what do you have to do to return value there? Not very much. Also, Jarvis Landry and those targets. Holy freaking cow. He could have 15 targets in this game. So
I don't know.
That's kind of
I think my value play for this week out of that game is Njoku. I think he is the safest play for cash out of this game for this week. So if I was going to lean on anybody, it'd be Njoku at the tight end position. So
I like it. All right, let's move on to the games. Now, what is Vegas telling us about these games right now, Austin? The over-unders, expected point totals, all that stuff. Have we had any movement?
We had quite a bit of movement. The biggest movement I saw this week was the Bears and Jets game. I think it's based off the weather, and then with the projections of Allen Robinson being out.
Did it go up or down?
It went down a lot. Like, it moved like almost 3 points. And then Vegas is now down in the Browns and Steelers game as well. Maybe it is because of the news you just said, but it's down almost 2 points. And when we talk about the Vegas lines, if it moves more than 1.5 points, that's something significant when it comes to Vegas points, and that's why we look at that pretty heavily. These next couple of games we're going to talk about, we have the Vegas odds, and I think these are though they moved up and down a little bit, but these are the games that Vegas loves this week. And if Vegas loves them, then it's definitely games that we got to look at and kind of build our player pool around them. So.
Yeah, and the thing is this, when we bring it up, this is where the money is. Like, we could talk fantasy and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't really affect things. These over-under lines at Vegas, these are millions of dollars of bets across so many different spectrums that are influencing Vegas's odds. They have the most riding on being right on this. That's why we go by these numbers. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
They follow the money. The amount of money they spent researching this is insane. So without further ado, let's go through a couple games. Let's start off with the Packers and the Rams. Probably one of the more fun games. This is going to be the Thursday afternoon game. Man, where are we at?
So right now, combined total of 57 points. It is the highest game. Or it was at 50. It was at 56.5. Vegas is up on this game. They think it's going to be even higher. The concern of this week, I'm glad this is why we put it first. Gurley, he's 11,000 on FanDuel. Are you fading him this week? He didn't hit value last week, and he scored what, 3 touchdowns?
Well, what do you mean? I thought he returned value for me. I cashed out in all my lineups with Gurley last week.
I did too. But
Yeah, I see what you're saying, though.
But the $1 million lineup didn't have Gurley in it.
Exactly correct. You will not be winning like the giant tournaments with him. However, cash game valuable, I do believe he is. You look at this basically offense going against Green Bay. It's going to be a very high scoring game, but I think that the volume is there. If you're playing in 50-50s, 1-versus-1s, small multipliers, things like that, I don't mind him. However, there are running back options that are much better. Kareem Hunt is my play of the week for the running backs. He is playing as well as anybody. And again, he's 88. Like
right.
he is a ridiculous amount cheaper than Todd Gurley. And so, for me, anytime I'm 8,100 on FanDuel. So I could save me, $3,000 and get somebody that's going to have about the exact same week. I'm okay with that. So I don't have him in as much. I've Kareem Hunt almost everywhere, probably too much this week.
All right. A couple other players. I mean, are you looking at Montgomery and Aaron Jones? I'm staying away from this backfield. Yeah, exactly.
They don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they like.
So we got Rodgers and Goff. Both are playable. They both have high ceilings. Rodgers definitely has a higher ceiling than Goff, but he has the bigger chance to bust. I think Goff is safer here.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, and it's you're looking at their defense, at Green Bay's defense. They're not as scary as what they once were. I think I'm going to be leaning Goff. He's 8,500. He's $100 cheaper, which kind of bums me out. I was really hoping Goff would have been about 8,000. Goff probably would have been the QB of the week for cash, in my opinion. But both of these guys are cash viable.
Yeah, and this week is rough for cheap quarterbacks. If you've listened to us long enough, we don't pay up for quarterbacks or tight ends usually, and we focus on these running backs and wide receivers. But this week's kind of rough because as you look through the pricing that is available, there's no super cheap value play that's safe here. They've kind of adjusted their prices. You're looking in kind of that $7,000 range on FanDuel for quarterbacks before I start feeling comfortable. And guys like, Trubisky, Winston, Dalton, Cam, they're not cheap anymore. They should be cheap. I was hoping they'd be cheap, but They are priced correctly. So it's a little bit rough. And wide receivers in this game, man, there's so much talent. Davante Adams might be the safest wide receiver in the NFL outside of Thielen. And so are you willing to play Davante Adams at $8,600 or where are you at on that?
I am. I definitely think Davante Adams will bring in value. I mean, a couple of other guys you're looking at, Woods. I mean, Geronimo Allison's supposed to be the guy this week. At 5,700, I definitely going to use him in tournaments. Cooks, 7,500. Scantling, I'm definitely going to be using Scantling if I need to punt on one wide receiver.
What if Cobb plays? Because Cobb is questionable.
If Cobb plays, then you can't use Scantling. I mean, I won't probably have as much Allison either because, man, Cobb and Adams, I mean, actually, might be a good stack this week too. If Cobb plays, I definitely would have that stack. But it would just be the QB and the two wide receivers. And another kid to look at too is Josh Reynolds. He did all right last week. He didn't do anything amazing, but at 5,100, the potential volume is there. His ceiling is definitely higher, and his floor is definitely safer. So
I like it. Okay, let's go through these games a little quickly. Bucks at Bengals. Man, this is going to be a fun game. Again, we're focusing on these games because of the over-unders, and we want as many shares as possible. So we're not going through every game. We are just going through the games that Vegas is telling us there's going to be a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking right now, these two QBs will probably be the QBs of the week that you're probably going to want to use for cash games. I mean, Winston 7,800, and then I'm not going to lie, FanDuel really screwed us. I mean, they put the Red Rocket at 7,800 as well. I mean, who has more upside and who is safer, do you think?
I love Dalton this week, man. I just absolutely love Dalton this week. Against that secondary. Again, the Bucks, I've said this earlier this week, the Bucks defense is on pace to break the most passing yards allowed in NFL history, and it's not close, by about 500 yards over the season. So I love playing whichever quarterback is against them. And again, Andy Dalton sucks in prime time. This isn't a prime time game. So I think that he will play well.
Yep, I like him. And then The cheapest running back out there I could see is Ronald Jones, but Peyton Barber is still there. I mean, but on the other side, I mean, Mixon mixed with a little bit of Hunt. I think honestly that is going to be my cash running backs this week right now.
Sounds delicious. That sounds
because
like a dish you can order.
It does. I really do think, like you said, I think those two will be one of the top 5. I mean, I think both those guys will be top 5 running backs this week, right behind Gurley or right ahead of Gurley.
And I'll say this, if you are one of the people that pay for our lineups, I had Ronald Jones in there expecting Peyton Barber to play. Now, we update those lineups all the way up till kickoff.
Yep.
And it's a live feed, and as we update it, you see it. So if you're one of the people, first off, we just want to say thank you, appreciate it. All that those proceeds go back into the show. We are trying our hardest to keep things up to date. So I took them out as soon as they said Peyton Barber is going to play. Now, if for some reason Peyton Barber is out, I'm switching Ronald Jones back in there because the volume is there. If he's out, if he's not, then stay away. AJ Green, man, he is the most expensive running or wide receiver this week at 8,800, and I think he is still a value. Again, I am stacking this game like crazy. One person that I am fading away from is CJ Uzomah, just because his targets are going down and they're getting less and less predictable, and I don't like that. I don't mind punting at the tight end position, but his price is 5,400.
Right. That's not punting.
Yeah, that's I don't mind it if I was paying like 4,500 for this guy, but there are way cheaper options than CJ that are going to get a lot more volume. I love Vance McDonald this week at his price. Yep. I have him in several lineups. And again, OJ Howard, man, OJ Howard, he's 5,800. He's not too bad. Brate's 47. Yeah, I'd rather have all of those players besides CJ, but that's just me. All right, let's move on to Broncos at Chiefs. Really, really quick. Let's go through this one.
All right, Broncos and Chiefs, we're looking at a combined point total of 53.5. It did move. It was 55. It was going to be the highest one of the week. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, Mahomes is 9,200. I mean, that is about as safe as you can get. He's definitely going to bring you value. Keenum is 7,000. So what are your thoughts on Kansas City's defense? Because they still haven't got back their lead cornerback or safety back there,
Eric Berry.
Yeah, I'm still not scared. I mean, I would be fine playing Keenum this week. He is probably the cheapest. I mean, he's safe, but there's a lot of grumbling out there that Kansas City's defense will crush this week.
If you look back, these teams already played once this year.
Yep.
And Keenum put up 7 points.
Yeah.
Keenum is, if it wasn't for Chad Kelly getting arrested and being all crazy, I think Keenum would be benched by now.
Really?
I really do. I'm not a fan. I don't think that he has what it takes. And again, John Elway has done one of the worst jobs at the quarterback position in the entire NFL over the past 5 years. But yes, Keenum should return value this week. I'm not ballsy enough to play him. He's $7,000, super, super cheap, but I'm too scared to play him.
I think he'll get over 15. I think he'll get over 15 points this week.
He should. The one guy that I do love in this is Philip Lindsay.
Yep.
Finally, man. I love Philip Lindsay. I love Royce Freeman. But the problem is they're the same person. And so if they're both playing, I'm not playing either one of them the rest of the year. And then they keep giving freaking carries to Booker and targets to Booker. I don't understand what the hell that's about. So the fact that Royce Freeman's going to be out with his ankle, I love Philip Lindsay this week.
Yeah, he's great for cash this week. I agree.
All right, let's jump to Colts and Raiders. The Raiders. I know who you want to talk about. Let's jump to these running backs and tell me why Jalen Richard is such a great play.
He is. I mean, he should get all the volume. I mean, he has shown that he is the guy when Lynch is out. So I'm definitely leaning Richard. I don't think I'm going to use him in cash right now. I haven't needed to. I mean, he's 5,700, but I definitely will have a couple shares of him in some tournament lineups this week. You're also looking at Mac. I mean, if Mac is back, and I'm glad that rhymed. Back. Yeah, 6,700. He's definitely a great play. But if Mac is not playing, Hines is only 5,300. So, and then for wide receivers, Hilton is definitely cash viable this week. He definitely. provides a lot of upside.
I have Hilton in
Yeah.
my target share, or my shares as far as lineups go. Kareem Hunt and T.Y. Hilton are at the top of the list.
I feel like FanDuel made it to where we had to pick a tight end out of this game if we're going to put it in our lineups this week. With Jared Cook at 6,400, Ebron 6,400, and Doyle at 49. I feel like we're pushed. Like we have to use one of these tight ends this week in our lineups in order to return value on any of our lineups. So
if Doyle is active, he will be in 30% of my lineups.
Oh,
at
he'll
4,900. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Doyle will be the tight end one there. Maybe not this week, but I'm telling you this right now, the rest of the season, if he is healthy, his target share and snap share is insane compared to Ebron's, and Andrew Luck loves him. All right, let's jump to our last game that we're going to highlight, the Browns at Steelers. Man, there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, there was a 51 point over under for this, or combined total points. It's now down to 48. So Vegas has moved off this game, but it's still higher than the rest of them. So that's the reason why we're focused on this game. But you got Baker, who's probably one of the cheapest quarterbacks this week. And then you got Ben at home at 84, which everyone knows if Ben's at home, he's safe to play for cash this week. So,
all right, I love it.
And we've already talked about Njoku and Vance McDonald, so I think we've already touched on this game. What about the Steelers defense? They're the only defense right now at 3,800. I mean, if you're not using Steelers defense and you're not paying up for Chicago, what's a defense we should look at this week then?
Yeah, usually what I do is I love cheap home defenses. That's usually what I do. And the fact that Pittsburgh is at home versus the Browns, who the Browns are just bleh, we know who they are. It's not a bad price. They're kind of in the middle. It's what they are. But man, I would much rather pay up for somebody, or not pay up. Sorry, I'd much rather save money and play somebody like Arizona Cardinals, who are at home versus San Francisco. They're $400 cheaper. You know, the 49ers are last in the NFL in turnover rate. So something like that. But I don't mind it.
Right.
You have to be able to see a way for this defense to return value. And I don't know, man. Pittsburgh, I don't know.
Right? You feel dirty, right? You feel dirty talking about it?
Yeah, they're like the Case Keenum of defenses. Like, yeah, I could see it, and it makes sense against the Browns at home. But then it's like, gosh, man, they just do not play very good football. I hate their scheme. I hate the way they use their safeties. I guess it could work. I don't know. I'm staying away. I don't have them in any lineups, but I could see it. I could see it. All right, let's jump over to emergency value plays. This is one of my favorite parts of the week. This is you get bad news 5 seconds before or 5 minutes before kickoff. So-and-so is not suiting up in a weird whatever. These are guys that you can plug in at each position in a doomsday scenario. So we'll start off quarterback. Now, usually quarterback, this isn't the situation. You know if they're going to play or not, and there's not really a cheap, viable candidate, but I would say Baker Mayfield at Pittsburgh, 7,200 is the closest. Stafford, 7,300. Running back Isaiah Crowell, 6,000 if you've got the room for it. He needs to be in your lineups. And Ronald Jones, 5,200 if Peyton Barber doesn't go. Wide receiver Dante Pettis, holy cow, 4,600. I'm telling you, you're getting a starting wide receiver on a team that throws more passes than anybody else in the NFL. The value is there. And Doyle, 4,900, who we already talked about. Now, Austin, real quick, we are going to, I want to kind of bring the episode to a close, but before we do that, I want some wonderful words of wisdom from my boy Austin. I didn't even prep him on this, but every time I ask him a question, he comes up with something gold. Hopefully he will not fail me now. Austin, give me some parting thoughts or words of wisdom this week, man.
Hey, if you're trying to find volume on cheaper guys, like John said, Vance McDonald's a kid to look at, but also look at Gabriel and Miller this week. With the news that Robinson's out, I mean, this is the guy that'll probably be in a lot, probably most of the lineups. But hey, this is one of those weeks where I feel like we could easily play almost anything, and we're gonna hit gold. We're on the up and up, and hey, if you've been following along and you've been building your bankroll, then this week is definitely a safe week where you can really we should make some money big time.
Yeah, it's just it's getting more and more predictable. And again, like whenever we mention players on here, I know that we don't go through lineups. And if you want those lineups, head over to eatsleepfantasy.com. They are there for you. But we're getting to the point where there's much more of a predictable slate of return. And what I mean by that is through volume and pricing and all these things, we are taking advantage of the pricing options that FanDuel has put out there to where we can get all of these studs like TY, like Hunt, like Thielen. Again, he's still relatively cheap for his value. And because of that, we are making money. We make money on 50-50s and 1-versus-1s and multipliers. And then the tournaments are swinging for the fences with our profits. So even though if we're not hitting on tournaments, we are still returning value. So if you have any questions, ask Austin. He is one of the most active people on Twitter. You can find him at Austin37. There's no I, at Austin37. And if you have any questions for me, at JL_Chapman. Other than that, Austin, just want to say thanks, man. Awesome stuff, man. This guy brings it. So if you're not following him on Twitter, head over there and let's make some money this week. So take care, and we will talk at you guys on Tuesday. Take care.
Hi, Steve.